What is time really? Is it the tick of a clock, the movement of planets, or something much more elusive? Philosophers and sages throughout history have struggled to answer this question. As St. Augustine famously confessed, "What then is time? If no one asks me, I know. If I wish to explain it to one that asketh, I know not." Time feels so familiar, we see its effects in aging, recall its past moments in memory, and anticipate its future. Yet when we try to pin down its nature, it slips through our fingers. Is time an objective, fundamental aspect of the universe? Or is it a construct of the mind, a sort of illusion we carry within our consciousness? These profound questions have intrigued both modern scientists and ancient spiritual seers alike. In this in-depth journey, we will explore time from two seemingly distant perspectives: the cutting-edge insights of modern science, physics and neuroscience, and the ageless wisdom of Vedic philosophy. We'll delve into how physics wrestles with the reality or unreality of time, how our brains perceive time's flow, and how the Vedic sages understood Kāla, time, as a cosmic principle. We'll also venture into the experiential realm through a meditative practice known as the Black Circle Tratak, where practitioners report stepping inside time or feeling lost in a void of darkness. What might science say about these eerie experiences? What might spirituality say? Throughout this script, we'll weave a mystical yet insightful narrative appealing to the spiritual seeker's heart while grounding our insights in authentic scientific and Vedic sources. Prepare to journey beyond the ordinary flow of seconds and minutes. Let us step into a liminal space where relativity meets reincarnation, where neurons meet nirvana, and where the river of time might just circle back on itself. The aim is not merely to inform, but to evoke a sense of wonder. After all, time touches everything in our lives. Perhaps by understanding its nature, we also understand something fundamental about ourselves. Time is something we all experience intimately, yet its true nature remains deeply mysterious. We often imagine time as a flowing river. It flows relentlessly forward, carrying us from past to future. We perceive a clear order of events, cause before effect, a measurable duration between events, and an ever-changing present moment that feels special and real. In our everyday experience, time seems like the stage on which all of reality's drama unfolds. But is this stage real and solid, or is it the mind's grand construction? Modern physics has radically altered our understanding of time. Albert Einstein's theories of relativity revealed that time is not absolute or separate from space. Instead, time is intertwined with space as space-time, and it can stretch or slow down relative to different observers. For example, a fast-moving astronaut or a clock in a stronger gravitational field will experience time at a different rate than someone on Earth. This isn't just imagination, but a measured fact of physics. Moreover, relativity supports a vision of the universe, sometimes called the block universe. In this view, all moments, past, present, future, exist equally in a four-dimensional space-time block, and our sense of time flowing is a kind of illusion. MIT physicist Max Tegmark describes it vividly. We can picture reality as either a three-dimensional place where stuff happens over time, or as a four-dimensional place where nothing happens. And if it's the second picture, then change is an illusion, because it's all just there, past, present, future. In this analogy, our lives are like a movie on a DVD. On the disc, the whole story exists already, but we, as conscious observers, experience it frame by frame, thinking the progression is real while in fact the DVD itself isn't changing. Some philosophers and physicists argue that many features of time we take for granted, the flow, the direction, the special now, might not be fundamental qualities of the external world at all, but projections of our minds. Hugh Price, a philosopher of science, points out that our sense of a flowing, directed time with a privileged present may stem from our mental perspective rather than the physics outside. If time as physics describes it is part of a static space-time, why do we feel it so vividly? Here is where neuroscience and psychology offer insights. Our brain is a time machine of sorts, not one that travels physically, but one that constructs our experience of time. From the neurological perspective, time is entwined with memory, attention, and emotion. We only ever directly experience the present moment, an eternal now. Yet our brain stitches together a sense of continuity, using memories of the past and anticipations of the future. As one physicist put it, all I'm ever aware of is my brain state right now. The only reason I feel like I have a past is that my brain contains memories. In other words, the arrow of time that we feel might be largely a result of how our brains record experiences, laying down memories in one direction, and not an absolute cosmic mandate. Neuroscientists have found that there is no single central clock in the brain. Instead, multiple brain regions generate our sense of time by processing sequences of events and the intervals between them. Our subjective time can stretch or squeeze depending on context. Think of how time drags during boredom or speeds up when we're engaged, or how moments of fear, say in a car accident, can feel slow motion. The brain's arousal and attention systems alter the flow of time perception. Experiments show that when neurons that code a particular interval get fatigued by repetition, our brain can skew how we judge subsequent durations. In essence, our internal clock is malleable. Thus, from modern perspectives, we have two compelling narratives. One, that time is an objective dimension of reality, but perhaps an emergent one from a deeper physics, as some theories like quantum gravity hint. And two, that time is partly a subjective construct, a mental projection that organizes our experiences. Is time fundamental or an illusion? The honest answer from science is that we're not entirely sure. It's a topic of debate. Many physicists, though not all, suspect time might be not fundamental. Rather, time emerges out of something more fundamental. Yet others insist that the flow of time is real and cannot be dismissed. Quantum physicist and priest John Polkinghorne argues that it's a mistake to use Einstein's block universe to say time isn't real. He notes that for each observer, only events in the past can be known, and the future truly does not exist yet in any meaningful sense. This viewpoint affirms that we live in a world of unfolding and becoming, where reality is not all laid out but genuinely developing. Science hasn't reached a final verdict, leaving room for multiple interpretations. Such scientific musings strikingly echo age-old spiritual ideas. In Eastern and Vedic philosophy, too, we find the notion that time as we normally know it may be a kind of illusion, Maya, and that there is an ultimate reality beyond the confines of time. In the Vedic spiritual tradition, time, Kāla, is a vast and multifaceted concept. On one hand, time is seen as an all-devouring force, and on the other as a cyclical rhythm underpinning the cosmos. The ancient Hindus did not view time as a linear arrow with a singular beginning or end. Rather, time is eternal and cyclical. They conceived of grand cosmic cycles in which creation emerges, dissolves, and emerges again in an infinite series of yugas, ages. According to these scriptures, there are 4 great ages: Satya Yuga, the Golden Age; Treta Yuga, Dvapara Yuga, and Kali Yuga, the Dark Age, which together form a Mahayuga cycle of 4.32 million years. 1,000 such cycles make a single day of Brahma, the creator, after which the universe dissolves and is created anew. There is no absolute year zero in this worldview. Time's wheel keeps turning eternally. Destruction is never final. It is merely the clearing of the stage for a new cosmic play. Time, for the Vedic seers, moves in grand circles. Alongside this cyclical notion, Kāla is also personified and deified in Vedic thought. Kāla literally means time, but it also connotes death. In fact, time is often identified with Yama, the Lord of Death, a reminder that time's passage brings mortality to all beings. The Mahabharata and other texts sometimes use Kāla as a name for the ultimate destroyer. In the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna reveals his cosmic form to the warrior Arjuna, declaring, "Time I am, the destroyer of worlds." This terrifying aspect of the divine as time, Kāla, devours everything, all the armies arrayed on the battlefield, and indeed all created things eventually. In that moment, Arjuna sees that Kāla is an irresistible force that consumes all that lives. This aligns with the everyday truth that time eventually destroys all worldly forms. Empires crumble, mountains erode, our bodies age and die. No wonder the Gita equates time with death itself in a poetic way. A commentary explains that Krishna showed Arjuna his terrible feature as irresistible time, which ultimately devours the entire universe. Yet in Vedic philosophy, this destructive power of time is not viewed as evil. It is simply the law of nature, part of the cycle of creation, preservation, destruction, Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva's cosmic functions. Time cleanses and renews. The Bhagavata Purana, for instance, describes time, Kāla, as a force emanating from the divine that oversees the cosmic cycles. Time is one of the fundamental tattvas, principles, through which the universe operates. There's even a sense in some texts that time is the very substrate of change, the foundational substratum for all changes, as Vedanta philosophy views it. In other words, time is inherent to the realm of Prakriti, nature. It's the framework that makes motion and change possible in the relative world. Importantly, the Vedic sages also speak of realms or states beyond time. The Upanishads, which are philosophical scriptures, teach that the ultimate reality, Brahman or the Self, Atman, is timeless. One famous Upanishadic verse describes the Supreme Self as without beginning, without end, beyond time, space, and causality, eternal, immutable. Those who realize this self are forever free from the jaws of death. In other words, our true identity, spirit, soul, is not the body that is born and dies in time, but an essence that exists beyond the stream of time. The Katha Upanishad, for example, highlights that when one knows the self, time-bound sorrows are left behind. This resonates with the spiritual notion of moksha, liberation, often described as liberation from samsara, the cyclical wheel of time and rebirth. To be liberated is to step outside the play of time, to realize the eternal now. Thus, Vedic wisdom presents a sort of two-level understanding of time, and relative time, Kāla, which governs the physical universe and our mortal lives, often depicted as cyclical and inexorable. It can be personified as a deific force, Kāla as death, that ensures the law of change. Transcendental timelessness, the state of the spiritual absolute, Brahman, Atman, which is beyond all change. This is sometimes called the eternal present. When yogis attain deep states of meditation or samadhi, they report experiences of this kind of timeless awareness, where past and future drop away and only pure existence remains. Interestingly, this dovetails with modern reflections. Just as some physicists suspect the flow of time is an illusion overlaying a tenseless reality, the sages long ago declared that the world of change, including time, is Maya, an illusion, and only the changeless truth is real. The convergence of these perspectives is fascinating and we'll revisit it. But before that, let's journey into a very immediate experience at the intersection of time and the mind meditation. Through a specific meditation technique known as Black Circle Tratak, practitioners aim to still their mind by fixing their gaze, and many have reported uncanny experiences as if time itself changed shape or disappeared. Tratak, or Trataka, is a classical yogic meditation technique of focused gazing, often done by staring at a single point, like a candle flame or a black dot, without blinking. It is said to steady the mind by harnessing the power of concentrated vision. In a black circle Tratak practice, one typically places a black dot or circle on a white background or simply focuses on a dark spot on the wall and gazes at it with eyes open in a dimly lit room. Over time, as the eyes and mind concentrate, several things begin to happen. Externally, your eyes may start to water, and the contrast of the black circle against the background may produce after images. Internally, many meditators report that their thoughts gradually quiet down and they enter a kind of trance-like stillness. Some practitioners have described particularly mystical experiences during such open-eye meditation. For instance, people report that after a while the black circle can seem to expand, or that their field of vision becomes filled with darkness. They may feel as if they've been drawn inside the darkness, lost in darkness, as if the usual sense of self and time has dissolved. Subjectively, minutes might feel like an eternity or no time at all. One might emerge from such a session surprised that 30 minutes passed when it felt like only 5. Or conversely feel they journeyed out of time altogether. Let's analyze this phenomenon on 2 levels, the psychological, neuroscientific, and the spiritual. Science, neuroscience perspective. When you stare fixedly at an unchanging stimulus, like a black dot on a plain background, your visual neurons can undergo a phenomenon known as neural adaptation. Neurons responding to that steady image start to slow their firing. Essentially, the brain begins to tune out constant stimuli. This leads to something called Troxler's fading, an optical illusion where parts of a stationary scene will fade away from perception if you don't shift your gaze. In Tratak, as you keep your eyes still, you might literally witness the dot or the surrounding field begin to vanish or blur out. The world can fade to black. This sensory reduction is akin to a controlled form of sensory deprivation. External input is minimized. When the brain is not busy processing changing visual information, our usual perception of time can distort because we often gauge time by external events and changes. Additionally, deep focused tasks engage the brain's attention networks intensely. When attention is highly absorbed in a single object, our awareness of time often diminishes. We have fewer timestamps from peripheral events to track duration. There's also the factor of brain waves. Focused gazing and meditation practices can induce more alpha and theta wave activity in the brain, associated with relaxed yet aware states. In such states, the subjective sense of time passing can be very different from normal waking beta wave consciousness. Neuroscientists might also explain the time inside feeling by referencing how our brain's time perception requires active encoding of changes. If in the darkness and stillness the mind enters a near thoughtless state, it's not laying down the usual sequence of memory impressions. Remember, as one expert said, our feeling of past comes from memory in the brain. In a state of deep meditation where thoughts, and thus memory formation, slow dramatically, one might afterward have the impression that no time passed or that one went somewhere else. In fact, studies on meditation have shown that experienced meditators often report a sense of timelessness or a greatly altered time perception during practice. One scientific experiment found that novice meditators tended to underestimate time intervals after meditation, as if time flew by or even ceased to exist for them. The authors noted this was as if time no longer existed for those meditators. Another study of long-term transcendental meditation practitioners showed they had more accurate time perception, suggesting that with deep familiarity one can enter a state of mindful awareness where subjective time aligns closely with clock time. Either way, it's clear that meditation can significantly alter our time perception. So, a person doing black circle tratak who feels they slipped inside time might be experiencing the brain's ability to lose the normal temporal bearings when attention is narrow and stimuli minimal. From a psychological standpoint, they might describe it as stepping into a void or the gap between thoughts, essentially a period where the usual mental narrative, which provides a sense of past-future, paused, leaving only an expansive now. Spiritual Vedic perspective. Yogic and Vedic traditions have their own interpretation of such experiences. In yoga, Trataka is actually a preliminary concentration exercise, dharana, that can lead one into meditation, dhyana, and even into samadhi, oneness or absorption, if carried far enough. The experience of darkness and timelessness could be seen as touching the realm of the absolute, what some texts call the sunyata, emptiness void, or the chidakasha, the space of consciousness. There is an oft-quoted concept among meditators, the gap between two thoughts. In deep focus, thoughts slow, and one may slip into the silent gap. This gap is outside time, because time, psychologically, is often counted by our sequence of thoughts. Many spiritual practitioners strive for this state where one rests as pure awareness, not thinking about past or future. The Upanishads say that in the deepest self, time does not bind us. The timeless self, hidden in the cave of the heart, is realized when one's mind is utterly still. From a Vedic standpoint, feeling lost in darkness during tratak could mean one has temporarily withdrawn from external light and is gazing at the inner reality. Interestingly, in some Hindu meditation experiences, people report seeing an inner light or divine light after the darkness. But often one must pass through an initial darkness of the mind to get there, a kind of inner night before the dawn. The Yoga Vasistha, an ancient scripture, contains stories and metaphors about sages who realized the illusory nature of time and mind. It suggests that when one is absorbed in the self, ordinary time ceases to have meaning. One sage's meditation, lasting a few moments, subjectively turned out to be hundreds of years in the external world, according to a famous tale, illustrating the relativity of time in spiritual law, a bit like a mythological hint of time dilation. For a practitioner who says they went inside time, a Vedic teacher might smile and say, yes, you touched the turiya, the fourth state of consciousness beyond waking, dreaming, and deep sleep, the timeless witness. Or they might interpret inside time differently. Perhaps the meditator dove so deeply into the present moment that they experienced the present as an infinite container, an inner dimension of now. Some might even say the person briefly experienced Kāla in its pure form, not as the destroyer, but as the vast, eternal backdrop. Sometimes Vishnu or Shiva are poetically called Mahakāla, the great time or eternity. In Hindu tantric practices, there's a deity named Kāla Bhairava, an aspect of Shiva who is Lord of time and darkness. Meditators sometimes contemplate him to understand the illusion of time and death, and to find the eternal in the heart of the void. Thus, spiritually, what seems like empty darkness can actually be pregnant with a sense of the infinite. Losing one's ordinary sense of time in meditation is considered a good sign, an indication that one is breaking identification with the body-bound mind and touching a higher consciousness. Of course, caution is advised too. Some texts warn that unusual experiences like visions or feelings of void can be distractions if we become attached to them. The goal is not to have a peculiar experience for its own sake, but to use it as a stepping stone to greater insight. A meditator might be advised, when darkness engulfs you and time disappears, remain calm and observe. You are nearing the truth beyond form. The convergence of the neuroscientific and spiritual here is beautiful. Both agree that in deep meditation, the brain or mind sheds its usual tracking of time, and one enters a state of nowness. The difference is primarily of interpretation. One calls it a brain state, the other calls it touching the soul or Brahman. Having examined these perspectives separately, we arrive at a fascinating crossroads. The scientific and the spiritual viewpoints on time may use different language, but they often seem to be feeling out the same profound truth: that time is not as straightforward as it appears. Both traditions acknowledge in their own ways that the linear, clockwork time we live by day to day is only part of the story. Where they intersect, time as illusory relative. Modern physics tells us that the division of time into past, present, future might be a subjective artifact. In the block universe of relativity, all times exist at once, and the flow is an illusion of our perception. Likewise, Vedic philosophy claims the world of change, and time is Maya, a play of perception. And only the eternal is ultimately real. Both suggest that on a fundamental level, reality is timeless, whether that means a four-dimensional space-time or a spiritual eternity. It's striking to note that a Cambridge philosopher, Hugh Price, says our mind imposes past, present, future order. An ancient Upanishad says the enlightened seer goes beyond the illusion of before and after, finding the self that simply is. Even Einstein is reputed to have comforted a friend about death by saying, "The distinction between past, present, and future is only a stubbornly persistent illusion," reflecting a very mystical-sounding view coming from physics. Science and spirituality both, in some camps, call time an illusion. Though to clarify, in science that means our experience of flowing time might not reflect the underlying reality, while in spirituality it means the material world's temporality is not the ultimate truth of spirit. The eternal present. Neuroscience shows we only ever have the present moment. The past is memory, the future imagination. Spiritual teachings encourage us to be here now and discover the eternal present, sometimes called the now with a capital N. When meditators report a state where time vanished, scientists might call it a lapse in temporal processing, but the meditator might call it satori, an awakening, or at least a glimpse of samadhi. There is an overlap in the idea that now is all we truly experience. Some physicists even posit that only a timeless configuration space exists, and time emerges from within it. Julian Barber's theories imply something akin to a series of now snapshots, and time is the continuum we imagine between them. Compare that to a quote from the spiritual master Ramana Maharshi: "Time is only an idea. There is only reality. Whatever you think it is, it looks like that. If you call it time, it is time. If you call it existence, it is existence. If the present is eternal, it is not time, it is reality." Here, Ramana hints that clock time is a mental label and the true state is beyond that. Transcending time. Both science and spirituality entertain the possibility of moving beyond our ordinary time. In science fiction and speculative physics, we talk of time travel, of higher dimensions where time might be navigable. In spirituality, enlightened beings are sometimes said to see past, present, future as one. The Sanskrit term trikalina means knower of the three times. While one is usually metaphor and the other theoretical physics, they share a fascination. Is it possible to step outside of time's flow? In deep meditation, many would say yes, at least in terms of subjective experience, where they contrast method and evidence. Science approaches time by measurement, equations, and empirical observation. It asks, what is time made of? How does it behave? Spirituality approaches time by introspection and revelation. It asks, what is time's meaning and how does one overcome its limitations? Science anchors its understanding in clocks, from atomic clocks to cosmic cycles, and in mathematical models. Vedic wisdom anchors understanding in consciousness. The sages looked inward and upward, deriving insight from meditation, seeing the rhythms of nature as expressions of divine time. For instance, the precision of yuga cycles in Puranic texts, spanning millions of years, is awe-inspiring, but it wasn't measured with instruments. It was intuited or revealed through a different mode of knowledge. Scope. Physics deals with time as a dimension of the physical universe. It doesn't ascribe moral or experiential qualities to time. Time just is a parameter. Neuroscience deals with how brains perceive time, not whether time is morally good or bad. In contrast, Vedic philosophy embeds time in a moral cosmic order known as Dharma. The Yugas even have moral dimensions, with Satya Yuga being when Dharma is full and Kali Yuga when it's at 1/4. Time is personified. Kāla can be wrathful or compassionate. Aligning oneself with cosmic time, such as living in harmony with natural cycles and auspicious times for rituals, is a spiritual practice. Moreover, spiritual teachings often center on liberation from time, since time's passage brings suffering, change, and loss in the relative world. Science is not concerned with liberation, it's concerned with explanation and prediction. Ultimate reality of time. A subtle but key difference. Even if a physicist says time might be emergent or illusory, they still treat the laws that produce the illusion as real. For example, maybe time emerges from quantum entanglement or some thermodynamic ensembles. Spiritual teachings, when saying time is an illusion, are pointing to a truth that is beyond empirical investigation. It's a metaphysical claim that spirit is real, matter-time is not. A scientist, even a mystically inclined one, might not go so far. They might say time is a mysterious phenomenon, but not invoke divine consciousness as the explanation. Yet, despite these differences, there is a remarkable harmony in the awe both perspectives hold toward time. Both admit, ultimately, time is a mystery. Physics hasn't fully figured it out. As one researcher says, the neuroscientific study of time perception is still quite new. There are many things we still need to learn. And spirituality, while it provides experiential answers like enlightenment and experiencing the timeless self, still treats time as one of the great cosmic powers beyond full intellectual grasp. We set out on a journey to explore time from two worlds, the world of science and the world of Vedic spirituality. Along the way, we found that these two worlds, often seen at odds, are in conversation with each other on this topic. Each provides metaphors and insights that enrich our understanding. Modern science shows us a universe where time might be part of a larger geometric reality, or a trick of emergence, not the absolute tick-tock we once assumed. Vedic wisdom shows us a universe where time is both a cycle to be respected and a veil to be pierced on the path to the eternal. For the spiritual seeker, what practical understanding can we carry from this? Perhaps it is this: we live in time, but we are not merely of time. Our bodies and stories unfold in the river of time, yes, and recognizing the impermanence of this can inspire us to seek deeper meaning. At the same time, within us is a still center, a dimension of consciousness untouched by the clock's advance. When we meditate or pray or lose ourselves in the beauty of the present moment, we get a taste of that inner timelessness. Neuroscience might call it a quirk of brain function, but our heart recognizes it as a homecoming, a return to what is real and unchanging in us. And what of time itself? Is it fundamental or a mental construct? We might now see that it can be both. It depends on the level of reality we examine. On the relative plane, time is a fundamental feature of how things interact. Certainly, in our daily life, we cannot ignore time clocks and calendars rule society. But on the ultimate plane, time could be a construct, whether of consciousness, per Vedanta, or of deeper physical law, per some physicists. The universe, as the Vedic rishis hinted and as modern cosmology also suggests, perhaps had no absolute beginning in the trivial sense. It moves in grand cycles beyond human comprehension. And at the deepest level, that which underlies existence, call it Brahman or the unified field, simply is not bounded by before and after. Standing at the intersection of science and spirituality, we gain a richer appreciation for the mystery of time. Each sunrise, each ticking second can be seen as part of Kāla's grand dance, a dance that is beautiful and relentless. But we, as conscious beings, have the unique ability to step back and witness the dance. We can even, in moments of grace, step out of the dance and into the audience, into the timeless awareness that observes the cosmos. In doing so, we don't reject time, rather we understand it. We see time for what it is, a magnificent illusion, a tapestry of change that the eternal weaves to adorn existence. So the next time you feel rushed or worry that time is slipping away, remember this dual wisdom. To the scientist in you, remember that every moment you experience is part of an interconnected space-time. You are literally made of stardust and time, and perhaps your future is already folded into you in ways you can't imagine. To the sage in you, remember that you are, at your core, beyond the reach of time. The real you is the still point of the turning world. Both perspectives invite a sense of wonder and peace. The clock will continue to tick, the years will pass, but that which is true in you, call it consciousness, soul, or simply I am, stands beyond the clock, in the realm of the timeless. In the end, maybe time is the grandest teacher. Through change, it teaches us the value of the unchanging. Through impermanence, it points us to the permanent. As the Bhagavad Gita showed, time destroys, but in that very destruction we are pushed to seek the indestructible. The black circle of time can frighten or confuse us, but if we gaze into it deeply, we might just find the light of understanding staring back. Mystics and scientists alike, in their finest moments, gaze into that black circle, one through equations, another through meditation, and whisper in awe, Tattvam Asi. Thou art that, perhaps meaning we and time are one, and beyond that, oneness is the ultimate truth. Let us carry forward this exploration in our own lives. Be curious about the nature of time. Cherish the present. It's all we truly have. Learn from the past. Plan lightly for the future. But above all, seek that which is timeless within and around you. In doing so, you honor both the rational quest for truth and the spiritual quest for meaning. And maybe, just maybe, you'll find that the two quests were never separate to begin with. They were two paths up the same mountain, leading to the peak where time and the timeless meet. Researched by Hemanth Kumar G, Vedavidya Consultants. Website, vedavidya.com.